The Pope is in West Asia. It's a first by any Pope ever. But that's not the only reason why this is our cover story tonight. The visit of Pope Francis to the United Arab Emirates is a story of many parts, with implications in India too. But first things first, it was a 40-hour-long, power-packed visit. It has made Pope Francis the first pontiff to set foot in the Arabian Peninsula. What was he doing there? He was trying to improve, or so we are told, the understanding and relationship of the Church with other faiths. Pope Francis held the first ever papal mass in the UAE today. It was attended by 135,000 Catholics, the biggest show of Christian worship in the Gulf region. Pope Francis spoke about several issues of global significance. He is not known to pull his punches. On Monday, at an interfaith meeting, he urged for the need for religious freedom.
Il pluralismo e le diversità di religione, di colore, di sesso, di razza e di lingua sono una sapiente volontà divina con la quale Dio ha creato gli esseri umani. Questa sapienza divina è l'origine da cui deriva il diritto alla libertà di credo e alla libertà di essere diversi.
He spoke about freedom and religion in a region that is not known for plurality. He also raised concerns about the war in Yemen and the situation in Iraq and Libya.
Penso in particolare allo Yemen, alla Siria, all'Iraq, alla Libia. Insieme, fratelli dell'unica famiglia umana voluta da Dio, impegniamoci contro la logica della potenza armata, contro la monetizzazione delle relazioni, l'armamento dei conflitti, l'innalzamento di muri, l'imbarbagliamento dei poveri. A tutto questo opponiamo la forza dolce della preghiera e l'impegno quotidiano nel dialogo.
The Pope's visit has two main objectives. He wants to work with the leaders of the Muslim world to make West Asia safer for Christians. Before the First World War, around 20% of the world's Christians lived in this region. The number has now fallen to 4%, mainly due to violence and sectarian tension. The choice of UAE is also significant. It is home to more than 1 million Christians. Many of them are immigrants from India and the Philippines. This visit made headlines around the world, from the Pope's messages to his choice of car, from the attendance at his mass to the performers for the event. Everything has been reported in colourful detail the world over. Our next report sums up the highlights.
For more than 1 million Christians living in the UAE, a visit by the Pope is the stuff of dreams. Abu Dhabi rolled out the red carpet for the pontiff. Upon arrival, he was given a royal welcome. Souvenir shops had some special offerings for the occasion. Perhaps the most awaited event was the outdoor mass. This was the first papal mass on the Arabian Peninsula. More than 100,000 Catholics attended the mass that was organized inside a stadium. The Pope waved to his followers from his car. They cheered as he moved through the crowds.
It's an amazing gesture for the Year of Tolerance. It's definitely showing how amazing and open they are. I'm very excited. I think everyone is too. I think it's very nice. Everyone can be so open and free here. It feels like a whole different place.
The organization was very good from the moment where we entered here, as well as from Sharjah. Actually, I'm from Sharjah. The transportation was excellent. The organization was perfect, including all the restrooms and all the food availabilities, seating arrangements, excellent, perfect.
An altar with a large cross was set up for the open-air service. This visit was an opportunity for Pope Francis to reach out to the Muslim community. And so he did.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Peace with you. Brothers and sisters, let us acknowledge our sins and so prepare ourselves to celebrate the sacred mysteries.
Filipino singer Sarah Geronimo also performed on the occasion. Life came a full circle for her, who had performed during the visit of Pope John Paul II to the Philippines as a 7-year-old. Bureau Report, Wion, World is One.
The Pope's travels to foreign lands are now looked at with a magnifying glass. Unlike some of his predecessors, Pope Francis has spoken candidly on some major global issues. He doesn't shy away from weighing in on homosexuality. He has spoken about the dangers of climate change. He has waded into the politics of the Yemen war. He has raised awareness about fake news. Even Venezuela's President Maduro has appealed to the Pope to resolve the political impasse in his country. In short, he is not your typical Pope, restricting himself to matters of religion. He is a political man who unabashedly takes political positions and influences agenda.
When Pope Francis travelled to Dublin in August last year, thousands of people had come out on the streets of the city. Protesters were raising their voice against the sexual abuse scandal surrounding the church. A former official of the Vatican claimed that the Pope had ignored the allegations. During a speech in Western Ireland, Pope Francis begged for the Lord's forgiveness.
Questa piaga aperta si sfida ad essere fermi e decisi nella ricerca della verità e della giustizia. Imploro il perdono del Signore.
This is a challenging time for the Catholic Church. The traditional values of Christianity are being challenged by the rapid advances of mankind. Popular commentary claims that Pope Francis is trying to introduce more progressive values at the Catholic Church. But some of his statements have even forced the politicians to sit up and take notice. Back in 2017, he called on world leaders to fight hunger, conflicts and climate change.
¿Cuántas son las víctimas de la desnutrición, de las guerras, de los cambios climáticos? ¿Cuántos carecen de trabajo o de los bienes básicos y se ven obligados a dejar su tierra, exponiéndose a muchas y terribles formas de explotación?
It would be fair to say that Pope Francis is a politically engaged leader. In recent days, the Pope has spoken candidly on issues of global interest. In January, he shared his views about the political crisis in Venezuela and backed the need for sex education.
Cercanía, lo que siento, yo sufro por lo que está pasando en Venezuela en este momento y por eso deseo que se pongan de acuerdo, no sé, tampoco decir ponerse de acuerdo está bien. Yo creo que en las escuelas hay que dar educación sexual.
In his message for World Communications Day, Pope Francis denounced fake news. In his message, he said, fake news is a sign of intolerant and hypersensitive attitudes and leads only to the spread of arrogance and hatred. That is the end result of untruth. Reforming the Catholic Church is a major challenge, but the Pope, through his statements and writings, is indeed leaving his influence on contemporary issues. Bureau Report, World is One.
Pope Francis has often been called the Pope of many firsts. He believes that the Church should be more open and welcoming. He has a less formal approach to the papacy, that's the office held by the Pope. In the last 5 years, the pontiff has made several significant breakthroughs. He abolished bonuses paid to Vatican employees upon the election of a new pope. He scrapped an annual bonus paid to the cardinals serving on the board of supervisors of the Vatican Bank. He signed a historic agreement between the Vatican and China. For the first time, the Pope recognized 7 bishops appointed by an entity other than the Church, in this case, the government of China. He is progressive. The pontiff has also travelled far and wide to spread Christianity. Doubts still remain over whether he'll be able to reform the Vatican, but there is little doubt about the fact that he's trying to redefine the role of the Pope. So we ask these questions tonight. Can the Pope do what political leaders have not been able to do in the past? Is the Pope just a religious head or a highly visible global celebrity and political influencer? He heads the Vatican, or the Holy See, which is treated as a separate country the world over. It has an embassy in India and diplomatic ties. So should the Pope then be treated as a head of state or a religious figurehead? It is clear that the Pope's political views influence people beyond his Catholic flock. Take India's example. The Church has political presence in this country as in any other country. It has even been accused of partisanship. And let me share some little-known facts with you before I go ahead with this. Catholic bishops and cardinals all over the world are appointed by the Pope. Those in India may be Indian citizens, but they're essentially acting as ambassadors of the Vatican in India. They do the Vatican's bidding. In the past few years, they've run into controversy by asking their followers to vote against the ruling NDA. Should this be seen as foreign meddling, considering they report to the Vatican? Does this cross the line between the Church and the state? It's worth mentioning that the Church has considerable soft power in India as well. According to the 2011 census, the Church owns or controls around 20,000 educational institutions. That's second only to the central government, the government of India. When religious institutions assume political power, when they enter in the domain of power politics, they step on tricky terrain. The critics of Pope Francis see him doing that, both in West Asia and in India and elsewhere in the world.